I've been getting back into reading these past couple months, and while I'm rusty, I'm not that bad. In the past, I've read some books like the Harry Potter series, which was the first thing I ever read. My mom introduced me to it. It was when I was very young. There's a whole funny story around it, which I'll talk about at some later point. It has to do with the train and everything, which is very fitting for Harry Potter. The second thing I ever read was the Diary of a Wimpy Kid series. I was about 12, 13 at that point, so Harry Potter likely came before that. I read Harry Potter quite a few times since, but the first time was before 12, 13, I'm going to say. Hunger Games series, I've read that too. Maze Runner series, that's another one. Both of these series were mostly because of the movies. I watched the movies first, piqued my interest. I wanted to read the books to get, more of the subplots, more of the storylines, more of the, character arc. Also, at a younger age, I realized that when I watched the movies first, I could kind of visualize the characters better. But over time, I've realized that if you read the book first, it lets you create a certain imagery in your head first, which is why it's important to read books first, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinions, among other things. But yeah, at that point when I was really young, I would watch the movies or shows or whatever first, and it would really help me kind of dream up the characters based on, the character sketches in the books. It was amazing. Anyway, I read other strays in the past after these couple series. I also tried reading the Game of Thrones books, A Song or The Song of Ice and Fire. The last book's not out and they're very loaded. I couldn't really get through any of them. I watched the shows before that already, and I wanted to kind of start reading post season 8. We'd had the books since before, I think, season 5 or something. But yeah, since season 8 was so bad, I want to read. I'm kind of rambling. Doesn't matter. I've read off and on since. I read Atomic Habits in the last 3-4 years, maybe. Die with Zero by Bill Perkins. Atomic Habits is by James Clears, obviously. James Clear. Clears. Clear. It's right there if you see. Right there. I had kind of stopped reading, especially fantasy books or fiction, which I really liked at some point, and I still haven't really gotten back into it. But what got me reading again was a friend. She didn't know how to loan a book from the library, so she asked if I would do it for her, and I did. It was Normal People by Sally Rooney. And before I gave the book to her, it was going to be a couple days before I saw her. I decided to read the book myself, and I read it in about 3-ish days. The book completely pissed me off because of Rooney's writing style, which is a whole thing. You can look it up, but it got the ball rolling at the very least. I've read a few things since, reread many other things, some 1984 stuff like that. But then I wanted to read newer and books that really got me excited to begin with, and then I could kind of venture off into other interests and classics and stuff like that. So I've been reading these 3 books that I just showed you. Let me show it to you in the order I got them, I guess. The first is The Outsider by Veer Das. Who doesn't know Veer Das, man? Like, especially if you're Desi, like you got to. I've been following Veer Das for a long time. I've loved his stuff. Delhi Belly was so great. But as he's become a more prominent voice as a stand-up comedian and kind of as an influencer almost, I guess, I've really been loving his stuff. My mom and sister love him too, and I just had to get his book the first week of release, obviously. I'm yet to read it. I'll talk about it more in a bit, but this is one of the books I'm currently reading. The second is Poems and Prayers by Matthew McConaughey. He was a 1000th episode guest on the Modern Wisdom podcast. He had been before also. In the 1000th episode, he talked about his faith and his love for humanity and how he used to write poems and prayers and journal, ever since he was 18, and he decided to kind of combine everything and have it in a book. I just loved his ideologies, the way he talked about things. And I really love the concept of poems because my mom also writes some poems. In the recent past, it's more private than public, but she used to write it publicly too. So yeah, there's been a certain pull towards poems for me. So I decided to get this. I'll talk about this more also, how I read this one. And the last one is my Antonia, which was a book that was recommended to me a while back. And I kind of found it again sitting in my book list that I was going to read at some point in life. And I was just trying to look for more books that I could loan at the library and not just buy, because the other two I bought. They're also books I would want to keep around anyway. But I was looking for more books that I could loan from the library, my school library. And most books on my list weren't available at the library, and this was. And I got it loaned out. I just got it this week, like 3 days ago maybe. I'm already quarter of the way through, like 50 pages into 200-ish pages. So quarter of the way through. The goal is to loan more and more books. I don't have to return this until May of this year, which is like 4-ish months. I guess it's not that popular. Like, it is a popular book, but among university students, probably not. So I just get to keep it. And as you must have seen, I bookmark with playing cards a lot. I have this one fancy bookmark, which should be show you. I mean, fancy is a loose term, but this bookmark, which looks like a bloody knife, I guess. It used to have a whole thing at the back, and it just come out. So it's just the plastic thing itself. It was a relatively cheap bookmark. It just looks like it has a dedicated purpose. But I had a deck of playing cards that's ruined, if you can see. So I just keep taking a few cards out of it to bookmark things. And I always have a pencil on me. So these came from the two books that I own. They were in it. I removed it for while I recorded. I like to write my ideas down. At some point, I really hated the idea of writing in books. You know, you deface them or something. But it's not like a limited edition. And if I really wanted to get a second book of the same type, if I want to have it clean, like I can. It's not like it's not possible, but I just like having my thoughts put down. I had this thing at some point where I would carry around a post-it pad, and I would just, like, it was a lot of friction, like a pencil and a post-it, and I would be writing stuff and kind of putting it there. And then if I reread the book, I have to either lift off the post-it, or I have to like remove it altogether if it's covering, like the sticky part is covering any text. I just got rid of all the friction. Now I have a pencil and I write in the books. Let me show you some examples. Like right here is the very first page of The Outsider, and it says, blurry ball of orange in the sky that ripples into pink and purple shimmers. And I just underlined it saying, great description of the sun. And from Poems and Prayers, I'll read you something, because in the third book, I just can't write anything because I don't own it. And I'm not going to be one of those asses that does that. So again, very first poem, very first page of the thing I wrote in it. The bookmark is actually at the wrong place. So this is the great thing. I'll tell you more about that. But I kind of keep jumping around the thing. I've just marked this part because a lot of the parts I got a call from the friend that asked me to loan the book. So like I showed you in the thing, I have marked out. So I'll read you the whole passage. So many of us today are out to prove that the truth is just an outdated, nostalgic notion. That honesty, along with being correct and right, is now a diluted currency in our cultural economy. So what I've marked is out to prove that the truth is just an outdated, nostalgic notion. And then I've underlined honesty, diluted currency, because these things stand out to me, and like you get a gist of what the poem and the whole text is about. And also, like, it really stands out. The wording is so pure, so beautiful. Out to prove that the truth is just an outdated, nostalgic notion, diluted currency. Like, I just love that. Then later on in the thing, passage reads, let's sing more than we might make sense, which I've underlined. I just love that. You need to still read the whole text to get the weight behind it, but just that line by itself, let's sing more than we might make sense. Like, throw logic out and just burst into dance, into music. Like, just have fun sometimes. I can't get rid of this line out of my head now. It just gets you going. Like, this is something that it's etched into my memory. And if anything like that is etched into yours, underline it. Just write it down. I have post-its all over the place full of things that I really like right back there, if you see. Like the orange one says more life, more love. Think about these things, write them down, underline them, whatever. Deface your books, man. You own them. Not the library loans, the ones you actually own, but you own them. They're yours. You can write on them. Another one I've underlined is put proof on the shelf for a reason and rhyme our way to reason. The rhyme. Like the word rhyme is used in it and it's been rhymed. Like how fucking beautiful is that? And yeah, there's some other random things. So how I'm reading these books, I told you I'm gonna talk about that. This book, like, it's so good. I got like a quarter way through, but as you can see, yeah, like the bookmark is at like 26 out of 240-ish pages. So a little under a quarter. But then I started to reread with a pencil in hand. And yeah, it just, you go slower and there's a lot more intent behind when you read. So you can't just do it casually, you can't do it leisurely, I guess. So yeah, the Veerdas book, that's only for home when I'm sitting around and I'm just like, I have like an hour or so that I really just want to be pulled into this book. An hour is actually also not a lot. You only get through like a couple chapters, maybe a couple pages, even if you really get engrossed in the whole thing and you're making a lot of notes. But I like doing it my way. I'm not trying to be the most efficient time wise with the whole thing. Like, I'm not trying to finish it as soon as possible. I'm just trying to get the most out of it. So yeah, I do it on my own time. And as for the third book, I have been reading it in my part-time breaks. I just pull it, like, I've read it for a total of maybe an hour at this point, and I'm already like mostly through it. I have to return it in May, so I'm gonna hold on to it for a bit. So I might reread it a second time, maybe a third time, whatever. This is a beautifully written book. This is not trying to instigate a lot of thoughts, I guess. It's more just about characters and how they come together, and later on in life, how they still remain with you. And it's nice. No pencils, no nothing, just me and the book, maybe a coffee in hand. That's it. As for the Huberman thing, there's a short that came across my timeline today. I'm actually just gonna pull that up now. Like, I would do the B-roll thing and everything, but this channel is supposed to be very low effort.
As we read, we are generating very low levels of motor activity in our throat. That is, we are speaking the words that we are reading at a level below the perception of sound or our own perception of those words. But if one were to put an amplifier to measure the firing of those muscles in our vocal cords, we'd find that as we're reading information, we are actually speaking that information. As we read, we are generating.
So, like, there's so many benefits to it, like the knowledge and the writing styles and getting to know certain authors, their stories or whatever. Like, those are obviously the primary benefits of the thing. But then secondarily, if you're able to pull some speech things out of it, if you're able to get better at see, I need to read more, I'm losing words. But if you can get better at speech, better at the language that you're reading in, I intend to read more in not just English. I know Punjabi a bit. I studied for a while at some point. So I know how to read and write, but I've not read any literature in Punjabi. Same goes for Hindi. I have not been an avid reader of anything Hindi. Like, maybe I've read one like small passage here and there, but that's it. Like, no books or anything. Oh, why not? I do want to get better at all the languages that I know. I studied French for a bit. I'm trying to get better at it again. So as part of it, sure, you listen to music and watch videos and watch interviews and whatever else it might be, like movies and whatever. But then I could also read the literature. That's how you really get to know a culture. Like, you read things that belong to them. Yeah, that's, I guess, on the 2026 resolution bucket list thing. Yeah, like, just read more, man. Like, it's not that deep. Even if you get through a couple books in a year, it's well worth it. You don't need to be over optimized. You don't need to read every day, every week, or whatever. But just read. And you don't have to read what your friends tell you about, or what the or your favorite influencer tells you about, or even what they write. You don't have to read the 3 books that I just showed you, or whatever books that are sitting in the back right there. You don't have to. You just have to read something that gets you excited. Read some reviews, read some small excerpts from it, or just read the book jacket, what's written behind it. whatever it might be. You can always find some summaries, overviews, whatever. Look for something that really gets you excited, that makes you want to get up and read it. I had the same feeling with The Outsider. I couldn't put it down. So much so that I had to restart it and like start jotting my thoughts down, and like I don't wanna not remember what I was reading. Even if you read through all the texts from the same author, not a big deal. And honestly, you don't even have to read from authors. Read Substacks. Read good written words. Read anything that gets you excited. I write a Substack, and that's partly to get better at the speech and language side of it. Obviously, to get your ideas out there, like why not publicly put them out there? Why wouldn't you? But just get going. It's not ever gonna be easier than it is right now. It's as simple as that. You could look for the perfect circumstances. Who wouldn't like those perfect scenarios or time, or when I have more free time, I have this week off, vacation, I'm going to take this book to travel. Never works out. You know that, I know that, everybody knows that. What you could do is just read a couple pages today. If you don't have the time now, Alex Ramosi said this about going to the gym to one of his younger employees. And I think it holds true for literally anything in life. If it's a high enough priority, you do it now, because it's not going to be easier. You're never going to have as much free time as you do now. You might, but you can't guarantee it, and it's almost always going to be the case that you don't. So just make time now. And actually, don't make time, just find time now. Everyone has time. I was watching Gilmore Girls until recently, until like 2 days ago. But then I realized I want to read more too. So the time that I was watching it was cut in half, and I was still watching it, just not as much, and I was reading. I just wanted to do both. So I did both. You don't have to be perfect every day, man. It's about just getting started. Anyway, that is it. I rambled quite a bit. If you've made it this far, thank you for putting up with all of it. I appreciate you. Read more. I'm going to be reading also. I'll see you in the next one. PS out.